Howdy folks, this is Thomas Cameron. I am a senior principal solution architect specializing in Ansible automation at Red Hat. But I do want to make clear that I am not representing Red Hat or RackNerd in this video. This is just something that I came up with that I hope might be helpful. So I have been a RackNerd fan for a number of years. I used their services for a project that I did for my neighborhood association a few years ago, and their pricing is amazing. The performance of their systems is actually pretty good. And if you go to racknerd.com/Black Friday, you'll see why I like them so much. So I'm going to click on View All, and you can see that for basic VPSs, virtual private servers, their pricing is amazing, man. I have a couple of these 2.5 gig VPSs running CentOS 9, and man, they're less than $20 a year. So the pricing is amazing. I was going to go with the big 4.5 gig VPSs, but I learned the hard way that the underlying hardware is not new enough to be able to run CentOS 10. And so after I went round and round with their sales organization, they showed me that there is an offering that will run CentOS 10. So here I'm logged onto the console. If you go to services and you go to order new services, here's what I want to point out. And that is that the normal KVM VPSs, which don't use or don't support CentOS 10, don't get that, but scroll down a little bit and you'll see that they have AMD Ryzen Linux KVM VPSs. Now, they're more expensive, but they're still pretty doggone cheap. I mean, it's $70 a year for a pretty beefy machine. 2 cores, 40 gigs of storage, 2.5 gigs of memory. And what I did was I ordered one in Chicago and I ordered one in Dallas just because I'm in the central time zone and that was kind of easiest for me. But I added those to my cart. I paid my invoice and they spun up within like 5 minutes. Super simple. But I didn't want CentOS 9, but that's the only thing that they have to offer. So let me show you what I did. So you can see I've navigated over to my account, and on my account you can see that I've got those 2 AMD Ryzen Linux KVM VPSs. So then I went over to the control panel for each one of those. If you go to nerdvm.racknerd.com, you can see your instances. Now, in order to reinstall these machines, one of the things that I noticed was if I use the VNC console, it gives me a VNC session, including graphical mode stuff. So notice that I can see the console. So what I did was on the 2 VMs, I logged into them. Hang on just a second. And notice there are a ton of failed login attempts on these machines. And so the first thing that I did was, there's way too many failed login attempts. So the first thing that I did was I did SSH copy ID. Made sure that that works. All right. And then once I've done that, whoops. There we go. SSH. There we go. What I really recommend that you do is you edit the etc ssh sshd config.d 01 permit root login and change that to without dash password. And then restart SSHD. And that way you know for sure that no one's going to be able to guess your password. Now, RackNerd does a really good job of using really long, complex passwords, but I'm a belt and suspenders kind of guy, so I don't want any brute force attempts to succeed. So there's that. Without password. System control restart SSHD. All right, cool. So now I've secured the CentOS 9 instance, but I don't want CentOS 9. I'm just, trying to keep anyone from guessing my password. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab a kernel and an initial RAM disk from the CentOS repository and copy them to my local system. Now, the easiest way to do this is I'm going to show you the CentOS stream mirror system. So I'm going to scroll up just a little bit. Actually, no, I'm going to go into this URL. So this is the CentOS stream mirror, and I've navigated all the way down to 10 stream, base OS, x86 64 OS. And the thing that I'm interested in is what is in the images Pixie boot directory. So that is the kernel, VM Linux, that is the zipped or compressed VM Linux kernel, and then the initial RAM disk. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat, copy and paste. On each one of these machines, let me clear the screen so that you can see what I'm doing a little bit more easily. The command that I'm doing is curl, and the output file is going to be, oops, I need to do that under /boot /VM Linux CentOS 10. And I'm going to grab that VM Linux file that you saw me point to over here. And so I'm going to run that command. I'm going to do this on the other machine. And then just to be sure, I'm going to do file /boot VM Linux CentOS 10, and sure enough, that is the boot kernel, right? So you can see that that's good. Now, I also need to grab the initial RAM disk, and so I'm going to do the same type of command, where I'm going to do curl-o boot initRD.CentOS -CentOS 10.image. And then once that gets downloaded, I'm going to run file against it, rd.img. Yep, and that's what we're expecting. We want to make sure that that is XZ compressed data. So we have downloaded the initial RAM disk and the kernel to install CentOS 10. Now the magic comes in when we tell the bootloader, the grub bootloader, hey, we need an extra stanza in the splash screen when you are booting up. And the way that we're going to do that is we are going to edit a file. It can be called anything that you want. I'm going to clear my screen real quick. I called it /boot/loader/entries/CentOS10 http.conf. But again, you can call it whatever you want. And let me show you what it's going to look like. The first line is just the title. So when the system boots up, what is it going to say? It's going to say install CentOS 10 via HTTP. The next line is the kernel that we're pointing to, and that's that VM Linux-CentOS 10 that we downloaded. The third line is the initial RAM disk. And so we're going to say the initRD is /boot/initRD CentOS 10.img. The magic is that we're going to add a line that is going to append the kernel so that it's going to say options are inst.repo equals, and this is the CentOS 10 mirror system. So that's all you have to do. And let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to copy that link, And I'll show you what that looks like here. And that's just the CentOS 10 or the CentOS Stream mirror for CentOS 10, and you can see that it's got all of the files in it that it needs, all the packages, all that kind of good stuff. And that's it, y'all. That's all you have to do. You have to grab the VM Linux and you have to grab the initRD. I named them a little bit differently, and then I added them to that file. And now what's going to happen is over here on these machines, hang on just a second, I'm going to send a Control-Alt-Delete, and we're going to install CentOS. All right, so here's the Control-Alt-Delete for each one of those machines. And look what happened. I got a new entry on each one of these that says install CentOS 10 via HTTP. So I'm going to hit enter, and you'll see the kernels boot up, and it'll take a few seconds. Be patient. But after a couple of seconds, you'll see the initial RAM disk get loaded, and then you'll see the graphical installer pop up. And I'm going to spread this, I'm going to expand this a little bit just so you can see it a little bit better. And there we go. Give that just a second to boot up. But the beauty of this is that initial RAM disk gets loaded into memory once the kernel loads. And so what's on the disk doesn't matter. You can completely destroy what's on the disk, and you'll get a fresh installation of CentOS Stream 10. So I'm going to wait till this pops up. All right, cool. So we got the graphical installer. And I do want to show you just a couple of quick things. So I'm going to click on continue and continue. And for the installation destination, say custom, or at least for me, I'm going to say custom. I'm going to click on done, and notice that it sees the old installation. So I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to check the box that says delete everything. And so now my drive is blank. So I'm going to do installation destination, custom, done. I'm going to delete that. Check the box. It says delete everything there. And I'm lazy, so I'm just going to choose create the partitions automatically. And so there it is. It creates the root partition, the boot partition, the swap logical volume, and the BIOS boot 1 meg partition. And if you want to, you can change things like the name of the volume group. I don't care. I'm going to leave it as is. But if I wanted to, I could click on modify and say, hey, instead of being this weird, funky host name, maybe I'm just going to do something like CentOS. That'll be easier for me to navigate. And so again, you don't have to. I'm just doing it as a way of demonstration. So I have now allocated my file system. I'm going to click on done on there. I'm going to click on done on there. I'm going to accept those changes. I'm going to turn off kdump because I'm not going to use it, and there's no sense in me having that turned on, because these are somewhat memory restricted systems. I'm going to choose my software collection to be just a minimal installation. That's all I care about. Everything else I'm going to be doing with Ansible. So let's do minimal installation, done. All right, I am going to set a root password, but I am not going to enable SSH for root. So there's that. Set the root password. All right. I am going to create a sysadmin user because I use that account for all of my Ansible playbooks. System administrator, sysadmin. Let's go to user creation. system administrator. Did I spell that right? System administrator. Yeah. Okay. Sysadmin. I'm going to set a complex password because that's really important. Sorry, I know that's not fun to watch, but there's that. All right. Okay. And I think that's it. I've got the network stuff set up. It's already detected the network stuff. The language support is good. The time zone is good. I've done the minimal installation on both of them. I've turned off kdump on both of them. The root password is set, but SSH is not enabled. So I'm going to start the installation on both of these. And when it gets done, I will have a fresh install of CentOS Stream 10 that works with RackNerd. Now, to be clear, I think I mentioned this earlier, but I want to say it again. This is not a supported configuration by RackNerd. This is just something that I kind of figured out, and I wanted to have the latest and greatest version of CentOS on my machine. This will also work for RHEL 10 once RHEL 10 is released. That's really why I did it, was because I wanted to make sure that I could get a RHEL 10 instance in RackNerd because they're so cheap and their uptime has been so phenomenal. But if this is helpful, let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Feel free to leave any comments or ask any questions in the comment section on YouTube. And with that, folks, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I hope that this is helpful.